They will never tell you everything. Not because they always intend to lie, but because the truth is rarely given, it is revealed. And the human mind is a fortress, guarded not only by words, but by silences, deflections, and the small betrayals of the body that even they don't notice. If you want to see what someone is hiding, you cannot rely on what they say. You must learn to read the language beneath language, the nervous tick in the corner of the mouth, the momentary break in their breathing, the way their pupils betray excitement when their voice says indifference. The subconscious is a restless prisoner. It rattles the bars even as the conscious mind insists everything is fine. Nietzsche understood this long before modern psychology put it into textbooks. He knew that every mask slips eventually, but not to the untrained eye. The untrained eye sees the story. The trained eye sees the fracture lines in the story. The first rule is simple. Watch the pauses, not the sentences. A lie is rarely delivered in one smooth breath. It needs construction, calculation. When someone speaks the truth, their words flow without hesitation. They are pulling from memory, not invention. But the moment they pause mid-sentence, searching for a thread, shaping the narrative, that is where the truth is straining to escape. The second rule. The body speaks before the mouth does. Every thought passes through the body before it becomes a word. The shoulders tighten before the denial comes. The eyes shift before the excuse is given. Micro-expressions, those flashes of raw emotion that appear for less than half a second, are the fingerprints of the subconscious. If you learn to spot them, you will see more than they intend to show. The third, people hide the most in what they repeat. When a person insists on a detail over and over, they're not always reinforcing truth, they're fortifying a weak wall. Repetition is the subconscious trying to bury doubt, both in themselves and in you. Nietzsche would say, beware the over-explained. The fourth, emotion and fact rarely arrive together. When someone recalls a real event, the emotion and the memory exist side by side. But when they fabricate, the two are often mismatched, too much emotion for too little reason, or too little emotion for something supposedly monumental. This mismatch is where the shadow of their real intent shows. The fifth, they cannot control where their eyes go when they feel exposed. It is not about the old myth that liars look away. It is about direction. When a question forces them to think in images, their gaze goes one way. When it forces them to fabricate, it goes another. The pattern varies by person, but once you learn their natural baseline, you'll see the shift instantly. The sixth, people hide in politeness. The sharper the boundary between their true feelings and the image they want you to hold, the more they will wrap their words in civility. They will agree too quickly, praise too easily, deflect too smoothly. But underneath, there will be tension, because the subconscious cannot fully relax when it is in disguise. The seventh, the truth leaks in contradictions. You will not always catch it in the moment, but the subconscious struggles to keep its stories consistent. The more a person talks, the more they must juggle the details, and eventually the hands slip. A small change in timeline, a different choice of word, a detail that subtly shifts meaning, these are cracks in the wall. The eighth, silence is an answer. People think silence hides something, but it often reveals more than words. A question met with hesitation is not empty. It is filled with all the things they wish they could say but won't. The weight of that pause tells you how much is trapped there. The ninth, the subconscious reveals itself in what is left out. What people omit is often more telling than what they include. If they tell you every detail except for one that should obviously be there, it is not an accident, it is an edit. And edits are rarely without purpose. The 10th, stress amplifies the truth. When pressure mounts, the conscious mind becomes overwhelmed and the subconscious takes the wheel. Watch how people react when they are interrupted, accused, or challenged. Their first flash of response is the unfiltered one, the one they will try to cover with words after. The 11th, they cannot fake their baseline for long. Every person, has a natural rhythm, speech patterns, tone, gestures. When they lie even subtly, that rhythm changes. The key is to learn their normal so well that the deviation strikes you like a bell being hit off key. The 12. Guilt and shame speak different languages. Guilt looks down as though it wants to hide from being seen. Shame looks away as though it cannot bear to look at the one who sees. Knowing the difference will tell you whether they regret the act itself or only the fact that they were caught. The 13th. Watch the hands. The hands are an extension of thought. They tighten into fists when someone is holding back anger. They fidget when a mind is restless with concealed truth. They touch the face when the subconscious tries to block something from being expressed. The 14th. Defensiveness is not always proof, but over-defensiveness is a confession. When someone leaps to defend themselves with more energy than the accusation warrants, they are defending more than the surface claim. They are protecting the deeper truth beneath it. The 15th. The voice betrays what the face hides. Tone shifts, speed changes, the sudden clearing of the throat, these are all tells. The voice is controlled by muscles the conscious mind barely registers, making it one of the easiest pathways for the subconscious to leak through. The 16th. People often reveal themselves in extremes. When someone reacts with disproportionate intensity, anger too hot, joy too loud, calm too calculated, it is often a signal of overcompensation. The subconscious knows the truth is vulnerable, so it builds armor out of excess. The 17th. The subconscious doesn't lie in dreams, and it leaks into waking metaphors. Listen to the images people choose. The metaphors, analogies, and slips of the tongue often carry the truth they will not state outright. Nietzsche believed every metaphor was a confession if you knew how to read it. The 18th. They cannot hide from someone who has faced their own shadow. You can only see deeply into others to the extent that you have been willing to see deeply into yourself. If you have confronted your own lies, your own manipulations, your own contradictions, you will recognize them in others instantly, not as judgment, but as recognition. Because in the end, seeing what they're hiding is not about playing detective, it is about seeing without illusion. Most people live half asleep, fooled by the words and images others feed them. But when you strip away your own illusions, their masks are no longer convincing. And then you don't just hear what they say. You hear what they mean. You hear what they fear. And you hear what they cannot bear to let out into the light. And when you reach that level of perception, conversations stop being casual exchanges of words. They become X-rays. Every gesture, every hesitation, every unnecessary detail stands out like ink on white paper. You are no longer guessing, you are seeing the fault lines beneath their surface. But here's the paradox Nietzsche would warn you about. This power is dangerous, because the more you see, the harder it becomes to pretend you don't. The world is built on polite illusions, relationships, deals, alliances that depend on not looking too closely. When you strip away those illusions, you also strip away the comfort they give. You will find that most people don't want to be seen that clearly. They will retreat, or they will attack. Some will call you paranoid. Others will accuse you of projecting. What they mean is, you are touching a truth I am not ready to face. That is why this skill must be tempered with restraint. If you use it to expose for the sake of ego, you will alienate more than you awaken. If you use it to wound, it will rot your own clarity into cynicism. But if you use it to navigate, if you use it to choose who you trust, where you invest, and what you guard, you will move through the world like a chess master among checkers players. And there's another truth most won't tell you. Sometimes you will see something in someone and you will not call it out, not because you missed it, but because you understand the timing is wrong. A truth delivered to a mind unready is not a gift, it's an attack. So you wait, you watch, you let them reveal themselves in their own time. Nietzsche understood the layers of human concealment because he understood the layers of human fear. We hide because we are afraid of rejection. We hide because we are ashamed of our impulses. We hide because to be fully seen is to be vulnerable in a world that does not always handle vulnerability with care. This is why the 18th rule, facing your own shadow, is the foundation of all the others. Until you have confronted the parts of yourself you'd rather keep locked away, you will misread others through the haze of your own denial. You will think you are seeing them clearly when in truth you are only seeing a reflection of what you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. But once you have faced it, once you have looked at your own capacity for deceit, cruelty, weakness, and still chosen to live in truth, you become something rare. You become the kind of person who cannot be lied to in the usual way, not because lies bounce off you, but because they become transparent in your presence. It is not about catching every falsehood like a trap. It is about feeling when something is out of harmony. Their words may be polished, their tone smooth, but you will sense the subtle dissonance between what they present and what they are. And here's where the true mastery lies. When you reach this point, you don't need to interrogate them. You don't need to corner them. You simply allow them to keep talking. The subconscious cannot stay silent forever. Given enough space, it will write its own confession right in front of you. Nietzsche would call this the quiet art of power, not the power of domination, but the power of knowing. Knowing when to speak and when to hold silence. Knowing when to confront and when to simply step aside and let the truth unmask itself. Knowing that the deepest currents of a person's mind are not revealed in grand admissions, but in the smallest, most unguarded moments. And if you can master that, you will never again be at the mercy of what someone wants you to believe. You will see them not as they wish to be seen, not as the world has labeled them, but as they are. And that is the one thing no mask can protect against. And once you see them as they are, the game changes forever. You stop reacting to the surface. You stop being manipulated by tone, charm, or theatrics. You stop falling for the carefully curated versions of themselves that people parade in public. Instead, you begin to navigate by essence. You listen to the undercurrent, not the melody. You read the spaces between their words as clearly as the words themselves. You feel the weight of what is unsaid pressing louder than what is spoken. This is why those who have mastered perception seem unshakable in conversation. It's not that they know everything, it's that they no longer need to know everything. They trust the tells. They trust the strange flinch when a certain topic comes up. They trust the way the voice tightens for just a moment, like a string pulled too hard. They trust the story that shifts ever so slightly the third time it's told. And here's the unsettling truth. When you develop this awareness, you will find that people tell you more than they mean to, not because they want to, but because the subconscious is always leaking. Even the most skilled liars can't control every channel at once. They may guard their words, but their posture relaxes at the wrong time. They may keep their face neutral, but their breathing betrays the spike in adrenaline. They may keep their tone calm, but their choice of words drips with the very truth they're trying to avoid. Nietzsche believed that every human is a book, most of it written in invisible ink, revealed only under the right light. The light, in this case, is attention, not the frantic attention of suspicion, but the still, watchful attention of someone who is not distracted by their own need to be liked or to be right. That is the real key, removing your noise. Because the less you need from them, approval, validation, agreement, the more clearly you can see them. If you need to believe they're good, you'll miss the cracks. If you need to believe they're bad, you'll miss the humanity. But if you need nothing, you'll see everything. And the deeper you go into this, the more you realize something both powerful and humbling. It's not just about seeing what others are hiding from you. It's about seeing what they are hiding from themselves. Some will lie with intent, yes, but more often they are speaking from a version of reality they've carefully built to protect their own psyche. They are guarding themselves against truths that would shatter the identity they've spent years constructing. And when you see this, you realize it's not always your place to tear that down. Power is not in exposing for the sake of exposure. Power is in choosing when to press, when to step back, when to let them keep their illusion because you know they're not ready for the weight of reality. This is where the perception Nietzsche spoke of turns from a weapon into a shield. You no longer use it to win arguments or to humiliate the dishonest. You use it to protect yourself, to move with precision, to engage without entanglement. You will see the flattery for what it is, a distraction. You will see the outrage for what it is, a defense. You will see the charm for what it is, a lure. And you will smile, because you are no longer caught in the net. In that moment, you are free, free from the spell of appearances, free from the manipulation of words, free from the need to fight battles you have already won simply by seeing them clearly. And when you live like this, something shifts in the room when you walk in. People feel the weight of your awareness, even if they can't explain it. Some will grow nervous. Some will grow curious. Some will feel exposed, not because you've said a word, but because your presence alone suggests that nothing they hide can truly remain hidden. And that is when you begin to understand the true nature of silent power. It is not in the volume of your words, nor in the force of your arguments. It is in the gravity of your perception. When people sense they cannot manipulate you, they instinctively tread differently. They measure their words. They choose their stories more carefully. And without realizing it, they begin to reveal themselves even more because fear of being seen makes the subconscious stumble. Nietzsche knew this was the unspoken advantage of the observer. When you are not in a rush to speak, when you do not fill the air to prove your intelligence, the silence becomes a mirror. And most people cannot stand to look into it without breaking the stillness with some piece of themselves they did not intend to share. You will notice this in conversation, how the more you say nothing, the more they talk. They fill the void, and in doing so, they wander into unguarded territory. They confess through implication, through slips of the tongue, through overcompensation. It is the same way a nervous hand will reach to adjust an already straight tie because the discomfort is not in the tie, it is in the awareness of being watched. But there is a deeper layer still, one that Jung and Nietzsche would have agreed on. The ultimate mastery is not just in reading others, it is in reading yourself in real time. Because if you can catch your own micro-expressions, your own sudden tone shifts, your own moments of over-explaining, you will dismantle the last refuge of self-deception. And once you have done that, no one else's deception can take root in you. This is why the most perceptive people are often the quietest. It is not shyness, it is calibration. They are listening on more than one frequency at once. They are hearing what is said, what is meant, and what is avoided, all without needing to interrupt. Over time, this creates an uncanny effect. You begin to know where conversation is going before it gets there. You feel the turn in the current before the words turn with it. You sense the retreat before the body shifts away. And that foresight changes the way you move through the world. You no longer chase closure because you already know when a person's story is incomplete. You no longer demand the truth because you already hold it, even if they never admit it aloud. You no longer fear betrayal because you see the small rehearsals of it long before the main act. This doesn't make life colder. In fact, it can make it warmer because when you do encounter someone whose words, tone, and body are aligned, you feel it immediately. There is no dissonance, no hesitation, no shadow tugging at the edges of their presence. And that kind of congruence is rare enough to be magnetic. It is also why Nietzsche warned that with great perception comes great loneliness. Not because there is no one worth trusting, but because so few people have faced themselves deeply enough to be fully transparent. The truth is, most of what you will see in others is the armor they've built to survive. And you will have to decide, moment by moment, whether to pierce it or to simply acknowledge it in silence. This is where perception becomes wisdom. The fool thinks seeing the truth means announcing it. The wise know that the truth in the wrong hands or at the wrong time can be a weapon without aim. So you carry it like a blade kept sheathed, not to hide it, but to ensure it is only drawn with precision. Because once you master these rules of the subconscious, you will walk through life with a kind of quiet advantage. No one can truly hide from you, and you no longer need to hide from yourself. And when you reach that point when both their masks and your own are gone, you begin to see the world in a way most people never will. The noise fades. The contradictions dissolve. What's left is the raw architecture of human behavior, stripped of ornament and performance. You'll notice how predictable certain patterns are, how often people think they're being unique when they're simply following an old script the subconscious has been running for centuries. You'll recognize the fear behind arrogance, the longing behind cruelty, the shame behind detachment. And instead of being shocked by it, you'll almost expect it, because the human mind is ancient and it rarely invents new defenses. It simply reuses the same ones, dressed in modern language. Nietzsche once wrote, "We are unknown to ourselves, we men of knowledge." He meant that most people walk through life strangers to their own depths, and that ignorance creates the leaks you've learned to read. It's not that they want to reveal themselves, it's that the subconscious doesn't care about the conscious mind's plan. It's like a prisoner tapping on the pipes, sending messages through whatever channels are still open. The tapping comes in many forms. A glance held a second too long, a laugh that doesn't match the words, a sudden, unexplainable shift in mood when a certain subject is mentioned. To the inattentive, these are nothing. To you, they are alarms, flashing in plain sight. But here's where the deepest power lies. When you see these alarms, you no longer take people's masks personally. You stop seeing deception as an attack and start seeing it as a survival mechanism. You realize they are not necessarily hiding from you, they are hiding from the pain of being fully seen, the way you once hid before you learned to face yourself. And this understanding changes the tone of your power. It becomes less about outsmarting and more about outseeing. Less about catching someone in a lie and more about understanding the wound that made the lie necessary. That doesn't mean you excuse manipulation, betrayal, or malice. It means you can respond with precision instead of reaction. You can protect yourself without declaring war. You can walk away without the need for explanation because you've already read the story in their eyes, in their pauses, in their silences. And sometimes you will choose to stay not because you're blind to their shadow, but because you see the light inside it, the part of them still fighting to break through. That choice is yours now, because you are no longer moving through life in the dark. In time, this awareness becomes second nature. You will meet someone new, and in the first few minutes, you'll know whether they are open or guarded, honest or performative, present or lost in their own narrative. Not because you're psychic, but because you've learned to hear the language of the subconscious. And once you hear it, you can never unhear it. This is the real inheritance of Nietzsche's rules. Not the ability to expose others at will, but the ability to walk through the theater of life, knowing exactly which scenes are scripted and which ones are real. You will see where the plot bends, where the characters falter, where the truth leaks through the cracks in the dialogue. And as you stand there, unshaken, watching it all unfold, you'll feel something rare in this world. Not confusion, not suspicion, not fear, but clarity. The kind of clarity that lets you move without hesitation, speak without wasted breath, and trust without regret. And in that clarity, you finally understand the quiet strength that comes from truly seeing. It is not the strength of domination or of forcing others to confess. It is the strength of freedom. Freedom from deception, freedom from illusion, freedom from the subtle chains that bind those who cannot read what stands right in front of them. You will walk through the world differently now. The smiles meant to disarm you will not blind you. The polished words meant to impress you will not sway you. The performances meant to distract you will not hold your attention. Because you have learned the oldest truth of human nature. No matter how well someone hides, the subconscious always speaks. In the tremor of a voice, in the flicker of the eyes, in the silence between sentences. Nietzsche would tell you this is not just perception, it is liberation. For once you see without distortion, you can no longer be led where you do not choose to go. You are no longer a piece in someone else's game. You are the player who sees the entire board. And that is the moment you stop being afraid of what people hide. Because now, nothing hidden can truly harm you. You carry your own shadow in full view, and you read theirs without fear. You know what they mean even when they don't. And you leave every room knowing the one thing they can never take from you. The rare, unshakable clarity of a mind that cannot be fooled.